Hi, you're listening to Middle East AI News live as a podcast. My name's Carrington Malin, and today I've invited Robert Maunder, Head of Corporate Development at TMC², one of Europe's premier AI incubators. Middle East AI News Live normally airs weekly live on LinkedIn and breaks down trending AI and emerging tech stories from the Middle East and North Africa, and brings in expert guests from technology, business, government to discuss the key initiatives and events. Tune in every Thursday, 12 noon KSA, 1 p.m. UAE, 9 a.m. GMT. You'll also find details at www.middleeastainews.com. In today's Middle East AI News Live, we're going to be talking to London-headquartered artificial intelligence startup incubator TMC². TMC² is an award-winning artificial intelligence and machine learning venture platform that develops its own IP, creates new ventures, and invests in AI startups. The new venture platform now manages a portfolio of companies founded or co-founded with IP developed and commercialized in-house. I'm going to be joined by Robert Maunder, Head of Corporate Development at TMC², who's visiting the UAE this week. As Head of Corporate Development, Rob is responsible for raising global investment for TMC² to advance AI research and development. He has a long track record of working with technology businesses in the UK and over 10 years in sales leadership. Rob has raised investment for multiple companies within the AI and machine learning space, including ventures in fintech, music, and entertainment technology. Rob is also Chief Commercial Officer at Sigma Financial AI, an innovator in developing AI-driven trading solutions. Sigma is a TMC² portfolio company and has recently launched Achille AI, a cutting-edge no-code solution supporting global financial services traders with data-driven insights. So a warm welcome to Middle East AI News Live, Robert Maunder. Thanks so much for making the time to join us and talk about TMC² and your plans for the Middle East and North Africa. Now, TMC² is a successor to its highly profitable predecessor, TMC1, also known as Time Machine Capital. TMC1 was closed out in 2021 with an average realized return for investors of over 500% to date, with an IRR, internal rate of return, of 30%. Established last year, TMC² has built a portfolio of AI-focused companies across entertainment, media, and fintech. TMC²'s AI lab is at the core of the business and defines the venture platform's focus, providing the ability to both develop and commercialize IP in-house and offer consultancy to help existing AI ventures. Its research and development team has filed for now 110 patents, securing over 80 across its portfolio. TMC² has a plan to establish a global network of AI labs to invest in and support early-stage AI opportunities across the world. TMC² has a plan to establish a global network of AI labs to invest in and support early-stage AI opportunities across the world. The TMC² team are now in the Middle East to raise funds and to meet with potential strategic partners for this new network. Rob, great to have you here and tell us more about TMC² and its plans for the Middle East and North Africa. Let's begin by taking a step back and talk a little about the challenges that AI startups face and the challenges that investors face in investing in new AI ventures. I think we could call the past year AI's big reveal. This huge wave of publicity and announcements that have followed ChatGPT's launch last year have put AI on the main stage, showcasing both the incredible power of AI, the future potential, and many of its dangers. How do you think that's affected new AI ventures? Has it made things easier for them or harder?
It's an interesting question. Definitely the emergence of ChatGPT has put AI on the map in a really big way. It's hugely positive in terms of people now looking at AI and machine learning as a methodology to use within their businesses to help push their businesses forward or kind of move ideas forward in a quicker environment. And in that way, AI is the buzzword, I think we can say, probably of 2023 in terms of business. They're calling it the Industry 4.0, right? The fourth industrial revolution, which is great when you're in AI. If you've been in AI a long time, it's brilliant because companies like ours that have been around kind of 10, 15 years and doing this for a while, that have essentially been beating our heads against a brick wall a little bit to say, hey, listen, this is a fascinating subject and it can really help you. It's great because people are finally listening. So in that way, it's great. It does have a few detrimental kind of takes on it as well, because every technology company, early stage, late stage technology company now has kind of seen that as a new way of being recognized and noticed as a standard within the industry. So you will find, certainly we find in companies coming to us, that every investor deck, every early stage, mid stage, late stage company has the word AI in it now, regardless of whether they use AI at all. It helps if you truly have some form of AI and ML there that's proven that you can back it up in terms of patents or in terms of an actual process that you can take someone through of an understanding. But it also hinders in that I think you'll find, and most investors probably, if they're listening to this, will say, well, I see 100 decks a week and every single one of them has AI in there. And actually, how do I know what is good AI and what is bad AI? So brilliant. Listen, I'll take any publicity in it, because as I said, if I rewind to last year, if I was sitting in front of people talking about AI, they'd be like, don't know what you're talking about. Now, everyone knows what they're talking about to an extent, but we just need to kind of, I think, set the boundaries of what is actually AI and ML and what's not.
Yes. And you mentioned investors there. We've seen venture capital investment decrease significantly over the past 18 months in tech, but the percentage of funding going into AI ventures has more than doubled. So you've got your finger on the pulse. How has this changed investor behavior with regards to AI ventures? Is it being more skeptical?
I think so, to be honest. I think the thing with AI companies and ML companies now, investors are willing to look at a lot more, which is great, because they look at a lot more decks and they're willing to take people through have people walk through the door and sit in front of them and kind of explain a problem to them. Are they a little bit more skeptical in terms of actually deploying capital? Yes, I think is the answer. I think the markets, as you said, with VC investments are down. There is an increase in AI, but with the markets in the place they are, a lot of people are still looking at safe bets. And the reality of AI and ML as an industry is it's still very early stage, I think, across a lot of it. You have what I would call surface AI companies, and I'm not calling ChatGPT that, but services AI companies that the masses can use very easily. Are looked on very favorably from the investment space because they're done by big companies and they've got huge backing that can push marketing out there. I think a lot of truly game-changing AI companies out there, which are still at early stage, I think it's still incredibly hard for them to break through, to have some investors actually look at them and go, listen, a lot of them are still pre-revenue or very early stage revenue. And are they going to work? Are they going to fail? What's the perception of AI? I think that's come across from investor. Is this a company that's going to help people and is it got an ethical kind of stand to it? Or is it going to scare people and say, actually, people are going to be afraid of this? So where do they sit within that? So it's an interesting one. Investor behavior is more open to conversations, but I would say harder to write checks for companies in the early stage of where they are, which is what we are, right? As I said, they're calling it Industry 4.0, the fourth industrial revolution. If you go back to the industrial revolution, the agricultural revolution, to Arkwright's water frame or the seed drill, they had to be backed at an early stage to actually kind of make a difference later. And I think we're at that stage now where it takes, I think, innovative people and innovative family offices or funds to go, AI is at the very early stages of what it can be. So where are we going to put our money? Where are we going to essentially bet that we're going to get to? And what does that look like? Because AI is truly vertical agnostic. It can help in medical. It can help in fintech. It can help in entertainment tech, various different media and research and development things. So it's an interesting one. So yeah, openness, but still I would say a little bit coy and actually sitting there and going, yes, I like this. And I think that comes from an understanding capability. It is a very, very, very hard thing to understand for the average person. I have worked and I own and work within artificial intelligence companies. If you actually asked me to look at the detail behind that and the technical of what makes a lot of our technology tick, I can give you an overview, but it's really only our AI lab and our experts that can sit there and walk you through the process of what that takes. And having the time with an investor to explain that and kind of get that ratified early on and them having someone that understands it from their side, I think is also a difficult place to be right now.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's hard to believe that investor knowledge has grown that significantly over the past year, in line with the hype.
Yeah.
And so is this a specialist occupation where investors need to have that specialist knowledge in order to invest in AI ventures effectively? And has that changed from past years?
I wouldn't like to think it's a specialist subject for an investor. I would say that you need to find companies that have a track record in what they do previous to the hype. That would be an important thing for me. So actually looking at someone that's delivered previously, or someone that has a history of creating IP and protecting that IP within machine learning and AI. Because I think you could get stung very quickly if someone came to you and said, listen, I've got the next big thing. It's really shiny. It can do X, Y, and Z. And actually you could write a check for it and actually then have someone analyze it who has the technical knowledge and look at it and go, this is all available in open source. None of this is protectable in any way, shape or form. And actually there's 10 companies doing it over there. So I wouldn't say it's specialist. I say it takes a little more due diligence, which I think is right, because I think for AI and ML to truly kind of achieve the potential in the marketplace and really benefit both investors and consumers, I think that due diligence needs to be there, because the last thing we want to do is kind of have the segment have its meteoric rise and be the buzzword of 2023. And then suddenly everyone go, well, actually none of that really materialized because of X, Y, and Z. So I think it's not specialist. I think we're at the early stages of the excitement with it. And I think people are being rightfully kind of not skeptical, but rightfully kind of taking a step back, taking their time to actually analyze what these opportunities are.
Yeah, I agree absolutely. And I think this learning phase of how to do due diligence effectively with AI ventures is going to be really, really important in the future. You've been meeting with investors in the past couple of weeks in Saudi Arabia and the UAE. Have you found attitudes to investing in AI ventures similar to the sort you encountered in Europe? Are the differences? Are we one stage behind, or is it just different, or are we no difference at all?
I think from if we look at kind of the governmental attitude of the region, for both in the Kingdom in Saudi Arabia and in the UAE, I think there's a tremendous amount of support from governmental organizations and government to bring technology and artificial intelligence technology companies to the region. But I think you're finding that in Europe as well. But I would say here there's a genuine excitement. It's built into kind of governmental policy in terms of looking at economic development over the next kind of 6 to 7 years. In the Kingdom, certainly with Saudia and the NCAI and the university like KAUST, you've got a huge push of them trying to build up homegrown kind of talent within the technological sector in AI and ML. So from the governmental point of view, hugely encouraging, hugely welcoming in terms of bringing people to the region and to commercialize ideas and look at early stage tech. I think from a investor point of view, it's an interesting one. I don't think there's much difference, to be honest, to Europe. I think what you're looking for within this sector, because it's early stage, is trying to find people that will write smaller checks for one, because a lot of AI companies are still very early stage. So you walk into investment houses and you're asking for $100 to $200 million. In some cases, that's a lot easier than sitting there and saying, listen, these are early stage tech companies. They need 5 to 10 million to get to the point where they need to ask for that. So I think there's not a problem, but an issue to overcome there in terms of looking at where the kind of companies that come and the investors that look at those ticket sizes are. But I think there is still a massive openness. It's just as I said, it's still at the stage where you need someone who can look to the future, innovative investors, kind of someone that's willing to take a risk on something rather than look at a safe bet. But if you look at the markets, the way they've performed the last year and where they're going, hopefully on the rise, I think that'll get easier as kind of more capital becomes available. But do I see a huge difference? No. Are people here a lot more open to discuss it and a lot more driven to try and make this region, the central technological region for AI and ML across Saudi Arabia and UAE? 100% yes, which is kind of part of the reason that I'm sitting here, really.
Terrific. Obviously, this is these reasons and this environment is part of the reason that TMC² was set up.
Yeah.
Can you explain, how that came about and why it's been set up and what the focus is?
Yeah. So TMC², as you said, was set up as the second iteration of Time Machine Capital 1. Time Machine Capital 1 started about 15 years ago when essentially one of the founders, a chap called Philip Walsh, wanted to get involved in AI after an exit from a fintech company. Didn't really know what kind of AI he wanted to go into, and met one of our other founders, Dr. Joe Lisk, Dr. Joe was in a PhD program with Queen Mary University, which are great partners of us now, and essentially said to Phil, listen, we've got some great artificial intelligence, some great machine learning technology based around generative music. So can you take a chance on it, essentially? So an investment club was formed. They pulled out all the PhDs from Queen Mary and went to work on creating a number of different companies under the first banner. That went very successfully. As you said, we returned kind of 598%, I think, on average to our investors in TMC, in Time Machine Capital. And Time Machine Capital squared, as Phil, the founder, would say, was he wanted to just go bigger and use the lessons that we learned from the first time and kind of actually expand that portfolio. So we started with a portfolio of 5 companies in here, all kind of that we built up in-house around music and entertainment. And slowly we've taken on companies from outside on equity for services deals that essentially need the expertise that we can offer them in artificial intelligence machine learning. It's very hard, I think, for a technical AI startup or a tech startup in general to have access to that level of kind of knowledge and that level of research without having to go and raise yourself 100 to 200 million. AI labs are few and far between. A lot of them are bought by the big players, Google, et cetera, et cetera. So having an independent AI lab that's dedicated to help early stage tech companies is something quite unusual. And that was the reason TMC² was set up. Let's do what we did before. Let's do it bigger. Let's do it better. And let's look outside of Europe to find opportunities on a global scale.
Right. And what are the new things or the differences between TMC² and the first TMC1?
I think the differences are that we learned our lessons in terms of due diligence in early stage technology of what really AI and ML can be applied to. I think in Time Machine Capital 1 or TMC1, there was an element of, yeah, that's really good. Let's look at that. Let's look at that. Let's look at that. And, you know, like any kind of investment group that has a portfolio of companies, sadly, they don't all make it. So I think the rigor and the due diligence that we were talking to on a previous point starts massively at home for us now. So the AI lab itself, Pearsos, is responsible for that first kind of stage of looking at any company and really diving into whether we think machine learning or any kind of AI technology can really benefit it in the vertical it's in. If it can't, we simply don't look at it. If it's a case of it's heuristic code, there's nothing that we can do with it, then obviously we say thank you very much and good luck, but it's not for us. So I think the level of expertise that we have behind the wheel in terms of what we have in the team now and the way that we have understood how to market these things and how to commercialize the companies has changed hugely. And the understanding, I think, and the talent that's available across universities globally, like our AI lab is made up of graduates from universities across Europe, Spain, Greece, the UK. We moved into East Africa, which was part of the global expansion about 6 months ago, set up an AI lab there to look at commercialization across sub-Saharan Africa. So yeah, so it's kind of like, as Phil would say, let's do it bigger, let's better, let's put TMC1 on steroids, let's use the lessons we learn and really push forward.
There's no substitute for experience, is there?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I'll tell you that.
If we were trying to define the role of that AI research lab, and you mentioned a few things there, what exactly does it do and how does that function and how does that help to propel TMC²?
So I think I would describe it as the central core or the brain of TMC², because it is where our IP is developed and then pushed down into the companies. So if we have a early stage tech idea, say from a graduate from one of our universities that we use or within our own kind of in-house team, that is where the ideation happens of that idea. That is where we look at it to see if it can be commercialized. So it's really important from that perspective. It's really important as a gatekeeper for other tech companies to come to us and say, like, we've got this idea or we've got this technology. We think that AI or ML will really take us to the next level. So it allows us to look at whether it can. And it's the first hurdle there, really, before it gets pushed into kind of the rest of the business, which is looking at the go-to-market plans, the commercialization. What it's becoming in its own right as an AI lab, which has only kind of come to fruition, I would say, over the last 3 months, is we are getting more and more VCs and more banks and big kind of industry players coming to us and saying, can you help us look at what is actually AI in certain investments? So it's becoming for us and for the industry and for various industries, especially kind of, as we said, the investment community, almost a benchmark to say, let's run it through TMC²'s AI lab. And if it gets the kind of thumbs up from them that says, yes, this is a good idea, yes, it can make a difference, and yes, IP could be developed and protected, then it's a good investment. So it is, as I said, it is the brain, and Nadine and Aglos, the co-heads of research there, are the people that really kind of take on that mantle of saying, this actually can be done and it can make a difference. And then obviously the rest of the team, like myself, have to look at that and see if we can commercialize it, because I can be honest with you, some of the ideas that come out within AI and ML are really, really kind of like next level over there, where you just kind of think, hang on, really? But yeah, so yeah, it's exciting times there, yeah.
Wow. So there's an opportunity really to take that AI lab to a whole new level that impacts not only your investments, but investments from many other institutions as well.
Yeah, I'd be really surprised if in the TMC1 we had a great unicorn called Mashtrax. It wouldn't surprise me if PeerSource as the AI lab, along with kind of 2 or 3 of our companies now that I can see really pushing forward, became unicorns. But PeerSource, I wouldn't be surprised if it became almost kind of a benchmarking stamp of approval for AI, certainly in Europe. And I'm hoping obviously to move that out globally as well, because there's a desperate need. People always talk about regulation in AI. How do we regulate it? Governments looking at it. What's ethical AI? What's unethical AI? And I think having some kind of expertise behind a body that can go independent as well, that can go, listen, this can be analyzed. This can be kind of put down in points of 1, 2, 3 and said, yeah, this does tick the boxes that need to be ticked. And having companies that can look at that and say, this is what matters to me from an ethical standpoint. This is what matters to me from a technological standpoint. Having someone that can look at that to give other people confidence that the due diligence has been done is a really good thing. And it's something, as we touched on before, I think is lacking maybe from the VC side, that actual technical knowledge of saying the numbers look great. Can someone actually ratify that the technology does what it says it does?
Yeah, I think it's going to be increasingly important. So let's just drill down a little bit into TCM²'s portfolio. You mentioned a few different sectors and a few portfolio companies. You want to take us through just an overview of what you have at the moment?
Yeah, I won't walk you through all of them because there's 10 of them, so that'll take a while. But what I'll do, we have 4 main sections. So we look at media, we look at fintech, we look at music and entertainment, and we look at research and development of actual IP. So our main kind of expertise sat originally, or does still sit to a certain extent within the media entertainment sector. We had huge success, as I said, with a company called Mashtrax from TMC1 that provides all the technology behind a global social media app called Triller. But that is part of and so within that kind of music and entertainment space, we have companies like Darcy, Showdown and Lounges. And Darcy's really our kind of standard bearer in that environment. Darcy is kind of everything from the ideation of recommendation engines within social media platforms to the editing of static music in the form of widgets. So I call it paint by numbers music editing, which a lot of the scientists kind of look down on, but it essentially does that. It takes a piece of music and breaks it up. It allows people like me to edit it perfectly and create my own version of a track seamlessly, which is great. That technology is out there in the market, so that's great. And it also moves on to now kind of generative musical AI, but not in the case of it learns from music. It's genuinely a one-of-a-kind kind of company that allows a composer to put their brain into a machine and teach it how they would compose and have that then recompose multiple tracks for you. So truly kind of next generational there. And then in that sector as well, we have a few kind of talent apps for emerging talent within music and entertainment spaces. So we've got one called Lounges, which is backed by Simon Cowell, very helpfully, and one called Showdown out in Canada, which is the same kind of vibe backed by Brian Adams. So they're really good. And then if you look at kind of the media section, we've got a company called Loyal that's being renamed to Subject because it's a lot cooler, I think, being called Subject. But that is essential kind of news aggregation. So the ability to pull in a load of noise and actually centralize exactly what you want for journalists. And then a company called Curate, which looks at the curation of images, and video, etc. So we all have huge amounts of images, if you imagine personally, but also museums, etc. To be able to drill down to exactly what you're looking for within millions of photos very, very quickly is still something that AI and ML can really push forward on, I think. And then we've talked about the research and development with PeerSource, so I won't spend too much time there. And then I think lastly, in fintech, one of the most exciting companies we have is Sigma, not just because obviously I'm also the chief commercial officer, it is my business, so I'll say that now, right? But it was interesting because it was an equity for services company that came into TMC2. But what what that's done is looked at TMC2's core technology around generative music and a scale of music, and actually looked at a candlestick chart within the trading world and said, actually, they're not very different. So if we can find shapes in music, if we can find dropouts, if we can find crescendos, etc., and then you take that technology, and obviously you have to tweak it a little bit, but put it in the market, it makes for some really exciting products in the fintech world that haven't been done before. So it's one of those truly great portfolios of companies that have their own IP in the individual companies, because that is what TMC2 does, right? That otherwise the companies underneath the portfolio would essentially be worthless, because there's no point developing the IP up here and not pushing it down into the businesses and enabling them to grow. But it's truly kind of innovative and unique for me, because there is that cross-company correlation of talking, because you've got the centralized AI lab. So one thing that might work really well in music suddenly works really well in the stock market, or something that works in media and curation of images suddenly works really well looking at the social media recommendation engines and how you kind of identify and push that content in front of people. So it's a brilliant portfolio, because each company stands alone in their own right, but together with the way that they've been brought up is a weird way to put it, but kind of brought up within that ecosystem, I think enables them to be 10, 15 years ahead due to the expertise we have in the AI lab than maybe they would on their own.
Yeah, I think Sigma Financial AI is such a fantastic case study, isn't it? Taking that financial focus and then finding that something in your music platform resonates with that financial research. Incredible.
Yeah, it's sitting in front of investors. A lot of investors on that cap table, for example, are kind of C-suite executives in huge kind of financial organizations in the city of London and globally. And I remember vividly one kind of investor, when I kind of was talking about the TMC story and I showed him music, I showed him our ability to brief a video with shapes and then have music kind of come to it. And I said, and what if I told you that actually those shapes can then be applied to trading and stuff like that? And he literally looked at me and said, if you'd done it the other way around, I would have walked out and called you crazy. But because you've shown the music and the generative side of the music, and then you've actually moved it into that kind of financial sphere and that kind of trading sphere, it blows people's mind. And you're right, from a Darcy, where that original technology is a great example of something that's being developed in-house from the TMC2 guys. And then Sigma is a great kind of showpiece for a company that existed with an idea and technology that came into the portfolio and was generally made better and pushed to a new level of innovation because of the AI lab behind it.
So how do you work with existing AI ventures, since we've got a good example here? Do they come to you? Do you identify them? What's the process?
A little bit of both, really, to be honest. So we kind of have our ear to the ground of early stage technology companies and ideas, certainly. One of the things that we do very well and we pride ourselves on is working and maintaining relationships with the universities. Queen Mary, for example, are on the cap table of Darcy because we worked very closely with them and their team to deliver that technology. So there's no reason why that university shouldn't be rewarded, and we keep our relationship there by having ideas that come out of it. So we've got that. We've got a number of other universities, and part of the reason I'm here as well is to kind of have kind of that outreach to different organizations and different universities to kind of keep that relationships going, because access to early stage deal flow in AI and ML, I think, is crucial for maintaining kind of our position as being one of the forebearers and the forefronts of what we do in this field. Anyone with an idea from a university that has a bit of craziness, that thinks that it can be helped and has a bit of expertise, we listen to and we take through a process, the same process that we take any company that maybe is a year into its journey, maybe is 5-10 years into its journey. They come to us, as I said, they go through that due diligence process of sitting with the AI team. If they get through that, there's a committee of everybody from go-to-market, commercial, operations, financials that sits there and looks at them. And then if they tick all the boxes, what we tend to do is say, great, this is the piece of work that we think we can deliver for you, and we will deliver for you over the next 6 to 12 months. For that, we take an equity stake in that business that comes in our portfolio, and then we kind of put that safety wrapper around them and hopefully help them succeed.
Great, understood. So you're generally open to founders contacting you and
100%. Listen, we have a team that luckily I don't have to sit with on the day-to-day, that I'm sure gets bombarded and probably will do after this with a number of more ideas. But that's the point of what we do, right? That we're a venture studio looking at early stage tech companies. Those kind of companies are not going to get through the door of the traditional VCs. They're not going to get through the door of institutional finance. They have to rely on angel investors and high net worth to maybe get in front of someone and maybe kind of look at it and go, yeah, I'm gonna take a punt on this. So I think it's an important role that we play within the industry right now, and I think it's one that we want to continue to play, because there's nothing better than taking something early stage, watching it grow, and then seeing it hit revenue and really push out the door. So I think that's kind of why we do this, and that's why the team was set up. So yeah, introductions, the more the merrier, honestly.
Great. And now you're here, and obviously you have plans for the MENA region. Can you tell us what you have in mind, and has that been shaped or formed by your meetings in the last couple of weeks?
I think nearly, to be honest. So I think that the plan was, this is kind of stage 3, I would say, of our global expansion plan. So we kind of had the UK, moved into Europe, really pushed out into there and established ourselves there. And then we moved into East Africa. I've lived and worked in Tanzania for many years. And there was a huge AI community there that was kind of ready to be harnessed and utilized to look at early stage tech and really grow what TMC² stands for in that region. And the next natural step for us was to look at the MENA region. So with the help of a few contacts and advisors here, we've been looking at where we should set up, whether it be the Kingdom, as you said, I've had a number of meetings there, or the UAE. So I think in terms of where we're going to set up, that's still a question mark, because we're obviously looking for that anchor investor to say, listen, we want you to be in this country. We want you to develop early stage tech from here in the region. But I can tell you exactly what we want to do is what we've done previously in the UK. We want to come here. We want to bring the portfolio companies that we have now. We want to bring them to the region. We want to set up those kind of regional offices to push out in the Middle East and Near East, into Australasia, to actually commercialize what's there now in the portfolio. And then the second half of what we're doing is we want to open the AI lab here, the venture studio. We want to have another one staffed, hopefully by graduates from universities within the region, that really kind of look and learn and help research new ideas and take on early stage tech companies in the region. So that's why we're here. My goal really is to tie up everything by the end of the year, and then January the 1st kind of kick on and kind of look at taking those first 4 or 5 early stage tech companies within the region into that AI lab and run them through the system. So hopefully by the end of 2024, we can sit here and say, yeah, we've successfully kind of built up a portfolio of 20, 30, 40, 50 companies, depending on how quick we can move and how quickly we can look at finding partners in the region that kind of believe in what we want to do.
That sounds like quite an aggressive plan.
Yeah, I think it is and it isn't, because we're very used to doing that, and we've kind of got the system in place and all the infrastructure in place to do that. But I think it's an important one as well, because I think, as we touched on earlier, I think AI being the buzzword, we need to actually sit there and say, okay, let's actually prove out that we can build proper AI companies, proper ML companies, and that can be done, not just in America, not just in the US or Europe, but there's technology, there's entrepreneurs within this region that have great ideas that can be commercialized here and on a global scale. And I think there is a lack of people that are willing to kind of listen to those early stage ideas and back them, and then help them get to that stage. So I think, yeah, aggressive to a certain extent, but I would say more hugely important, I think, as well.
Absolutely. And this could be part of eventually a global network of AI labs, couldn't it?
Yeah. So the idea with TMC² is to kind of build up that infrastructure of being a global venture studio that has regional AI labs that are focused on commercializing early stage technology businesses in their region. That would sit within, as you said, a global network that has relationships across the board, right across from music to fintech to institutional investment, and to people that can really help commercialize those ideas. And then I think with anyone, for us as a business looking forward, is to set up, hopefully in the region, this is another reason why we're here, that kind of next stage fund. So that Series A stage fund that we can actually then kind of follow in on our positions from where we are now with our investors, because there's nothing better than helping grow a company to commercialize. But when you're on the inside of it, you can really see kind of the meat and bones and what's going to work and what's going to be, and what looks like it would really succeed. And so I think the natural next step for us as a business, when we kind of grow this global stage, is to then look at that and go, right, let's look at actually then following in with some investors in those positions to give back. So yeah, it's been a great, interesting journey. As I said, we've been welcomed in the region really strongly. So now it's just a case of finding the right partners that like what we do, that like the structure of what we do, and want to join us on the journey.
Who are you interested to hear back from in the region? I mean, we've got listeners from Saudi, UAE, and elsewhere. What are the sort of engagements and conversations you want to have from the region in the coming weeks or months?
Yeah, I think twofold. I think I'd love to hear from entrepreneurs and people that have ideas that we said that we can look at commercializing, because having a pipeline and a deal flow is hugely important to any kind of business in this flow. We have to have people coming through the door in order to help and commercialize those ideas. So them primarily, and also alongside them, I would say investors from family offices or people of interest, institutional money that actually looks at it and goes, this is a model that we can truly get behind, and we want to support the growth of technology within the region. Because as you grow companies within this region, naturally that attracts jobs, that attracts training, that attracts everything that we can do. And when you're looking at a sector, or in the words like artificial intelligence, machine learning, that's really on the cutting edge of that, having that support within the region and growing that, I think, is only a good thing for those investors, the people that work for the business, and also the region as a whole.
Thanks so much for joining me today. Shame we couldn't do the live show, but it's just one of those things. So I'm very glad I got to catch up with you today anyway.
Thank you so much for taking the time to kind of have a chat with me. And as I said, hopefully if everything goes to plan and this helps us, we'll be here from January. So look forward to hearing from entrepreneurs, early stage tech companies and partners.
That's all we have time for today. Thanks so much for joining us on Middle East AI News Live. Thanks to my special guest, Robert Maunder, for a great discussion this afternoon, and hope to see you all again soon.